Sugar is a constant, quiet presence in modern life. It dissolves into our morning coffee and swirls away into thousands of processed foods, usually perceived as a cheap and harmless staple. 5 centuries ago, this same powder was a rare luxury. Known as white gold, it was a spice so expensive that only the wealthiest European households could afford to use it. That changed with the hot drinks revolution. As Europe became obsessed with coffee, tea, and chocolate, sugar transformed from an exotic curiosity into a daily necessity for millions of people. This created a geographical crisis. Sugarcane requires the intense humidity and heat of the tropics. It cannot survive a European winter. To meet this skyrocketing demand, colonial powers rushed to establish massive agricultural operations across the Atlantic, creating a labor vacuum that changed the world. European colonists initially tried to do the work themselves, but they, along with the indigenous populations they enslaved, suffered staggering death rates from tropical diseases and the brutal physical requirements of the crop. Desperate to keep the mills running, European empires looked to West Africa for a forced labor supply. The transatlantic slave trade expanded into a massive industrial engine, specifically to feed the global craving for sugar. The blueprint for the plantation system was perfected on the islands of Madeira and São Tomé. These served as laboratories where the Portuguese developed the specific methods of coordination and control that would later define the American colonies. Harvesting cane is an exhausting process. Workers spent 12 hours a day under a tropical sun, using machetes to hack through thick, woody stalks and cutting them at ground level where the juice is most concentrated. A biological timer starts the moment the plant is cut. Sugarcane sap begins to sour and spoil within 24 hours. This narrow processing window forced overseers to implement 18 to 24-hour shifts. During the harvest, the fields and mills operated around the clock, denying workers any opportunity for rest. Sugar plantations functioned as lethal assembly lines, where human movement was dictated entirely by the rapid decay of the plant. The pressure moved from the fields into the mills, where the cut stalks had to be crushed immediately to extract every drop of juice. This crushing machinery utilized heavy metal rollers to squeeze the stalks. Exhausted and sleep-deprived, workers often caught their fingers or limbs in the gears as they fed the cane into the rollers. The danger was so well understood that overseers kept hatchets nearby to perform emergency amputations, sacrificing a worker's limb to prevent the machine from pulling their entire body into the rollers. The design of the mill prioritized the continuous output of the machinery over the physical safety of the people operating it. After crushing, the juice entered the Jamaica train, a series of boiling kettles where workers ladled scalding, viscous syrup from vat to vat in suffocating heat. Frequent burns and accidents were compounded by a lethal environment. In these damp, manure-heavy conditions, even a minor cut often led to fatal infections like tetanus. The human toll was catastrophic. In Brazil, life expectancy for an enslaved sugar worker was 23 years. Owners calculated it was more profitable to work someone to death and buy a replacement than to provide food and housing. This system reduced human existence to a set of replacement costs, where lives were treated as a purely financial variable on a ledger. This localized suffering fueled a global system. Between half and two-thirds of the 12.5 million Africans forced into the slave trade were destined specifically for sugar colonies. This schematic illustrates the horrifyingly dense arrangement of human bodies required to maintain the logistical flow of labor to the cane fields. This was the triangle trade. Molasses and sugar flowed out of the Americas to build the massive wealth of European port cities and provide the capital that funded the industrial era. The foundational wealth of the modern global economy was extracted directly from these lethal plantations. Today, sugar is an invisible ingredient in a global market, stripped of its history. Every spoonful of sugar that funded the rise of modern empires was extracted at the cost of millions of lives.